everyone. I'm Vanessa, marketing lead at Adina, and you're listening to The Beauty Curtain. This is the podcast that draws back the curtain on the beauty and personal care industry. And today we're talking to our very own ingredient specialist, Bijilly Yadav, on the future of sustainability and its claims. Welcome to the podcast, Bijilly.
Thank you, Vanessa. How are you?
I'm good, thanks. How are you feeling?
Yeah, okay, not too bad.
Good. So I'd love to start off by getting to know you a little bit more. So you've been at Adina for a long time now.
Yes.
How long has it been?
I have been with Adina now for 10 years. A little bit random, to be honest. I was in the lab previously as a chemist, and I thought, let me just see what sales is about. I'll give it a go. But clearly I've loved it so much, I'm here still. So no, it's been fun. It's been a nice change. Especially in career-wise, you get to see different sides of the table, how it works in the lab and how it works on this side of the table, which is good. And also just being at Adina for such a long time.
So you mentioned that you've been in the lab, now you're doing sales. I'd love to dive a little bit more into your background and kind of how you got into sales in the cosmetic industry. Okay. So how did you get into cosmetics?
Probably not the most direct route, if I'm honest. Me being a young sort of 18-year-old, went and did some A-levels, completely flunked them. But it was a learning lesson. And then from there I chose to do BTEC cosmetic science. It was a BTEC beauty science, and I very quickly learned that touching people's toes or waxing people's parts was not for me. But luckily within the unit, they actually had a lady come in and talk to us about cosmetic science. And most of the people in my class were quite happy doing sort of the hands-on beauty treatments. So for them, that class was quite boring. But I was fascinated by the fact that we got to make this cream. She was talking to us all about an emulsion. And I thought, you know what, I think this is probably a little bit more me. And then I went home and had a little look on UCAS to see what degrees and things there were and what paths you could take to get into this industry. And then I stumbled across the cosmetic science degree. And the rest is kind of history. Did the degree, graduated, and then I went and worked down in the south for a contract manufacturer. I was in the lab for about 2.5 years, but it was quite far from home. So it was down south in Portsmouth, and I lived in Kent, where my family is. And I thought, I'd ideally like to go back home. I just met my partner, and things were kind of going in a nice direction. So I then was looking around, found a job at Adina, and I thought I'd apply. Contacted them, called me in for an interview, and yeah, here I am, 10 years on, still doing sales. But it's been fun. It's been it's a different way of looking at the industry, but you're still involved in the development process because you get to see what the briefs are coming in. You get to pick sort of ingredients or promote ingredients that would fit in well with those briefs and trends and things. So yeah, it's a nice job.
That's amazing to hear. I'd love to know, do you miss formulating at all?
Yes and no. If I'm honest, I do miss the banter of a lab, because in the lab it's like in an office you're very much heads down working. In a lab, because you're more working with your hands, you can have a little bit more free chat. And it's just a lot more fun environment, I think. And to be honest, I think I was healthier in a lab because I was on my feet and I was walking around. Here I just sit and eat biscuits. But no, I do miss the lab a little bit, because you get to meet the brands directly and chat to them about what they're looking for as well. So yeah, a little bit. But I also really enjoy this side.
Yeah, you must do. I mean, it's been 10 years. What have been some of your highlights in this role?
I think for me, seeing how Adina has changed over the years, because I remember when I came for my interview, and I'd worked with Adina in the past as they were one of my suppliers, and I walked in and I had a look around and I was like, where are all the people? And at the time, there was only 8 people in the company. And Chris was like, this is it. This is all of us. And I was like, oh, wow. Like, considering they've always worked so professionally and so promptly, I just assumed it was a much bigger company. So I was shocked at that when I first joined. And then as I've joined, I've seen the changes. There's more and more people. We've doubled in size. We no longer have an our Adina logo made from word art. If anyone who doesn't know what word art is, it's very old. But it's just changed massively and for the good. Yeah, it's a really lovely place to work.
Yeah, thank goodness the logo isn't made from word art anymore. Glad we have our in-house marketing team to sort that out. But I'd love to move on to our trends event as you presented one of the macro trends, sustainable, so what? How was that experience?
It's one of those things that no matter how much you train and practice for, it never gets any easier. You get up on there and you kind of say everything as quickly as you can and you come off thinking, did I do okay? So I'm hoping people got the message, enjoyed listening to me. But it's always quite nerving, I think. I think no matter how many times you do it, I think you're always going to be quite conscious of the fact there's lots of people looking at you. But at the same time, it's very fun. And nobody in the room is a stranger. We know them, they're our friends. So it becomes a bit easier for sure.
You did very well, I have to say. Your presentation was excellent, but just for some context for our audience, we host an annual trends event that launches our annual trend report. So if you'd love to see any highlights on that, check out the video on our YouTube channel for more. We hosted it at Hijingo, London. How did you find the venue?
I thought it was brilliant. It was very funky. It was very sort of young, but it was really, really good. I liked the fact that it was dark because it does make you feel a little bit more comfortable when there's less lighting. And the twerking, I love the twerking.
Can we talk about the twerking?
I was not expecting that, but it was brilliant. It was really good fun, and a lot of customers have said to me how much fun it was. Gutted I did not win that robotic vacuum. That was on my list.
That was the best prize of all.
Yeah. Who wants the trip to Europe? I was happy with the vacuum. Come home and clean my house.
Yeah, I definitely agree. It was such like I think a different experience for our customers in such like a futuristic venue and things like that. So I'm glad you had fun. Okay, so moving on to your presentation of our macro trend sustainable so what. Can you tell me a little bit more about kind of what that trend is and what does sustainable so what mean?
Sustainability is one of those things that a lot of brands kind of look for and look towards. But what we're finding now is that just saying you're sustainable is not enough. People want more and more transparency. They want a lot more information. And they want to see what you're doing that is good, not just saying that you're good. So yeah, that's essentially what the Sustainable So What section is about, because it is, well, you're saying you're sustainable, but let me see it.
Yeah, like why is that shift happening? Why are people demanding more transparency now?
I think it's because they've now got more access to the internet. I'm from the generation where you had to do dial-up. The internet was just starting. You didn't really know what to do with it. Google was a new thing, and it was all very new then. Whereas now the new generation, or the Gen Z generation, have access to this whole platform of information. They can go online, they can search things, and they just have access to more information. Like if I speak to my nephews, they're all Gen Zs, and what they know about Earth and the sustainable part is completely different to what I was taught at school. They have days off to go and do like World Earth Day or whatever it is that they do, but it's really focusing on sustainability now, whereas back in my time, make myself sound old, they didn't really talk about it so much.
I completely agree. You can definitely see that Gen Zers are doing more for the planet. I mean, look at Greta Thunberg and, younger and younger, they're kind of making bigger strides. So what are companies doing to kind of do good and be good and meet these demands?
It's because people now have a host of access on the internet. You can see brands using that. So they're looking at platforms, usually on the internet, to do good and show good. So here we have a brand from the August period products. They're very good at talking around the stigma around periods, around period health, the menstruation health. And they also have a really nice sustainable point of view. They don't agree with period tax, which a lot of countries still charge, because they think, for goodness sake, that period products are something that people want. They're really not something people want. They're something they need. So they agree with that, and they actually take back the tax on those. And you've also got multinationals like Dove. I mean, Dove have always been quite good at talking about controversial subjects and have this whole host of things on their internet. On their website, they have this platform for mentors and parents to go on and help guide young people, especially around the effects of social media, because the internet can do good, but it can also do bad as well. And it's just trying to make sure that people understand how to navigate the negative parts of the internet, but also create positive self-esteem messages as well.
So is it true that August period products actually PayPal's you back the period tax?
Yes.
Wow. So is that something we're going to see more of, companies really kind of putting themselves out there to genuinely do good?
Yeah, I mean, I think so. I think there's going to be a lot more talk around trying to make people feel more inclusive and more heard. The other day, I don't know if you've heard it, but there was a radio advert for Haribo. And they were talking about how, you've not heard, they had loads of people with different accents, and they were basically saying that certain accents are removed or they're told to speak in a certain way. But on this Haribo advert, they had about 10 people talking in different accents and saying how that they were proud to be able to be on the advert speaking in their accents. It was brilliant. They had people from the north, from the south, from the Midlands, all with different accents and different ways of saying different words. It's really good fun.
Wow, that's amazing. I haven't heard that.
Really on it. I've had it a few times now, so I think it is relatively new.
Yeah. Do you think you can tell when a company is doing this authentically and when they're not? Because sometimes it can feel like they're just, trying to meet the need to kind of reach the bottom line. But, can you tell?
No, I think you can tell, because sometimes people will just say on pack that they're doing good, but then when you don't see that messages coming through their campaign or things that they're doing, I think it becomes acutely obvious that they're just saying that they're doing something good.
Yeah, I agree. I think we all have that kind of intuitive nudge when we feel something is inauthentic. But it's amazing to hear that Haribo has done
Have
that.
a look at the advert. It's good.
Yeah, I will. We'll have that in the description box below. By the way, we'll try and find it. So are there any companies maybe working together to go above and beyond and do good? Are there like collaborative efforts?
Yeah, so we have a supplier, the Upcycle Beauty Company, and the Upcycle Beauty Company themselves are very focused on upcycling. They look at ways in helping to reduce waste, and one of the things they do is that make sure that their MOQs are low, so that people are they don't have to waste any materials. They also make sure their packaging is recyclable or reusable. But in terms of their collaborative efforts, they're not just about themselves and showing that how good they're doing. So on their website, they actually have an entire database that's highlighting key suppliers, from manufacturers to packaging people and brands that offer upcycled ingredients or products. So they're really there to show people it's not just them doing good, there are others doing good, and it's good to pay attention to what other people are doing as well.
Yeah, that's amazing to hear. And I think working together is going to become more and more important, right?
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah. So are there any good examples of suppliers who are making a difference in this space?
Yeah, sure. So we have Active Concepts. They have a nice cradle-to-cradle approach with some of their ingredients. But we also have, and they have a product passport as well, which basically tells you where the product is made, where it's produced, how it's transported, and things like that. As well as another supplier we have is DSM Firmenich. They have an impact card, and their impact card talks about some of the UN Sustainable Goals. It features on how much energy is used, water is used, and the naturality of the product. And it's just a nice snapshot for people to look at when they want to know those types of information.
Going back to Active Concepts, you mentioned that they used a cradle-to-cradle approach. What is that?
A cradle-to-cradle approach is essentially trying to use as much of the product as possible. So, for instance, if you have a coconut, you can try and use the shell, you can use the flesh part, you can use the water. It's trying to make the most out of the entire plant. So they do that quite a bit with their coconut, with Axel coconut. They have a water in there as well, and a nice coconut extract, as well as a shell. And they also have a pomegranate, which they do the same thing with. They have ABS pomegranate sterols, a nice pomegranate extract, and an enzyme. So there's lots of different ways in which you can use or utilise their entire fruit or vegetable that they're using.
So is this to do with the cradle-to-cradle certification, or is this slightly different?
I think I don't believe they are cradle to cradle certified, but the cradle to cradle certification is definitely a way that you can prove this kind of method. And it's not just necessarily around cradle to cradle approach, it's looking at lots of different things. They have 5 things looking at like climate and air stewardship and oil stewardship. They also look at material health and things like that. So there's lots of different categories when you're looking at the cradle to cradle certification. They do differ slightly.
It's great to hear that suppliers are leaning into this and providing kind of more information about their products, where they're from, and also using, the entire fruit. It's amazing to hear Active Concepts doing that. What are some of the ways that companies are leaning into this transparency?
So because I mentioned earlier that people want more and more information, the companies are having to show that they're giving more and more information because people, and they've also been, research has shown that people are actually happy to pay more money for products that give more transparency. So they're leaning into this through sort of blockchain technology. That gives you a much more full and transparent overview of the actual product itself.
Okay, so for us marketers over here, can you tell me a little bit more about what blockchain is?
So blockchain is essentially like an online platform which information is put into the system and it can't be changed or modified. Therefore, it's 100% reliable and trusted. So we have actually some brands already adopting things like this. So Cult Beauty were one of the first of its kind to actually do this, and now I think about 50% of all the products on Cult Beauty have this sort of verified tick, as it were, to show that they are blockchain certified.
Wow. So it essentially means that you can really trust all of the information?
Yes.
Okay, I think I understand that. So are there any companies that are really leading in this?
We did recently see a launch by Clarins. I've got a product here, and it's quite an interesting product that, it just looks like a normal bottle and everything about it is absolutely fine. But on the back, it has a QR code. Now, QR codes have become hugely popular. It's like literally on everything. And the QR code, when you scan it, it takes you to a website. And on there, you can actually put in the batch number of your product. And it tells you the entire product, like background, where it was sourced, what materials came from where, and where it was manufactured, how it's packaged, where it was sent from. So yeah, it's a really nice way of leaning into that traceability thing without necessarily using. It could be classed as blockchain, but it's a nice way for consumers to get that access and see that information straight away.
It's amazing to see Clarins leading in this space and providing this entire platform to trace your products from, I think they say, from farm to face. Do you think there's actually going to be a lot of uptake of this opportunity from the demographic that they target?
If I'm being entirely honest, probably not. It's great that they do it. I'm probably in that target demographic, and I probably wouldn't care so much. I wouldn't take the time out to look at it. But that's not to say it's not a good thing that they're doing it. I just think it's perhaps a little bit wasted on their target market. But it does show that they are wanting and trying to do good. And hopefully that will appeal to the younger demographic, maybe.
Yeah, that's absolutely true. So final question. Are there any good examples of suppliers also maybe providing this farm to face information?
Yes, so we actually have a supplier called Vantage, and they've done it for years now with their jojoba range. They have quite a sort of wide portfolio of jojoba derivatives, so looking at the oils, the waxes, the scrubs, and they've got some really nice ingredients that come from the jojoba, but they talk about more around the traceability of it. Because years ago, when I first joined the industry, there was a massive shortfall on jojoba, and nobody could get jojoba anywhere. But Vantage had this really nice continued supply. They spoke about where their farms were located. They have them sort of conveniently located in 2 hemispheres, so the northern hemisphere and the southern hemisphere, to account for all kind of weather uptakes. And yeah, they've got some really good information on sustainability. It's their own farms as well, so they can make sure they know what's going into it and what good is coming out of it. And they recently did a new launch with the jojoba range called jojoba 20. It's one of their liponate esters. It's quite good for an oil-free claim as well, but still gives you that luxurious feel.
Great. For more information on any of our ingredients, make sure to check the description below. We'll have a link to the Vantage liponates, I think they are. And so thank you so much, Bijilly, for joining us today. It has been really insightful, and I know this is a hot topic, so I'm hoping everyone enjoyed it.
Thank you very much for having me.
Of course. Where can our audience find you?
So if you're coming to SCS, you can find me on the stand 500, I believe. Otherwise, my emails and things are available on the website, on the podcast. And yeah, just feel free to contact me anytime you have any questions. Thank you.
Great. Thanks, Bijilly. And thank you so much, Harrison, for producing this podcast. If you need any of the information, of course, it'll be in the description box below. Make sure to like, subscribe, follow, and stay tuned because Bijilly will be back for another episode on accessible beauty and more on the future of sustainability and its claims. Thanks so much for listening.